Welcome to the Detroit Lions Morning Rounds podcast. I'm Jimmy Liao, MD, University of Michigan Medical School graduate and lifelong Lions fan. So let's do a Game 6 recap. Big win over the Falcons. Let's start with the post-game injury report. Not much to talk about. Clean game. Still no severe tears for the Lions during the regular season. No ACL, no Achilles. There have been a total of 28 ACL tears in the NFL this year. The Lions have none of them. They do have an Achilles tear with Jayshon Cornell in the preseason, but overall, the Lions have been very fortunate regarding these severe tears. Also, no concussions that I've seen so far this year. Another really good news, really good, fortunate thing to be happening for the Lions. Another thing to talk about is the entire starting offensive line played 100% of snaps this week. Last week against the Jaguars, 8 offensive linemen played. They were in and out of the lineup. Crosby and Vitae started the game but only played 32% of the game. Jonah Jackson started the game, only played 77% of the game. Not sure why. Might have been a dehydration issue in Jacksonville. May have been some other issue, such as infectious gastroenteritis, aka stomach flu, which may have led to a dehydration issue. Really hard to say why there were so many offensive linemen in and out of the lineup last week, but really good news that they all played 100% this week. Now, Joe Dahl, who started the season as a starter, has been relegated to the bench. He played 0% of snaps. It might be a new starting O-line from this point forward, or at least the past 2 games going forward, with Vitae as the right guard and Crosby as the right tackle. We'll see what happens. Maybe Joe Dahl is still suffering lingering effects from his injury, but we may be seeing our starting lineup for the offensive line right now. As a side note, congratulations to the Big Ten for starting play this weekend. Nice to see college football in the Big Ten back. Congrats to University of Michigan for a big victory. So nice to watch a Michigan blowout victory again. Really missed that this year. It's also nice to see Michigan and the Lions win on the same weekend. I'm a fan of both. That is not something that's overly common in the year. If I get a few of those throughout the year with both teams winning, I'm pretty happy. So anytime it happens, it's a good weekend for me. All right, now as far as Game 6, let's talk about the play of the game, which was letting Gurley score the touchdown. The scenario was Falcons 1st and goal at the 10-yard line with 1 minute and 4 seconds left. Lions have no timeouts, so the Falcons can knee it out, kick a field goal with no time remaining, and win the game. They, instead of kneeling it out, let Gurley run the ball. It appears that the Lions are playing hard on the play, but they definitely had wanted to let Gurley score, because after Gurley scored, a bunch of Lions players were signaling touchdown. And we're hoping the refs were going to call it a touchdown. Will Harris, who maybe tried to tackle Gurley, but may have actually been trying to grab him and push him into the end zone, actually helped the cause, because Gurley tried to break free from the tackle, couldn't stop his momentum. Will Harris gave him a little push at the end, and Gurley scores a touchdown by about 4 inches. There was some statistical numbers posted after the play, which showed the Lions' win chance went from less than 1% if Gurley did not score to about 2 to 3% with Gurley scoring the touchdown. So if Gurley doesn't score, the Falcons are kicking an old school extra point, an 18-yard field goal, which has a 99.5% chance or greater of succeeding. If Gurley does score, the Lions have to score a touchdown with 1 minute left with no timeouts. The statistical analysis was there was a 2 or 3% chance of this succeeding. However, I don't know if the analytics account for game situation here. The specific game situation, which it might not have accounted for, is the Lions are going to go for it on every fourth down because they're trailing by 6 points. And the Falcons' defense is more tired late in the fourth quarter than earlier in the game. So I don't know if the statistics are just averaging out what are the chances of scoring a touchdown from the 25-yard line within a minute at any point during the game, or whether it specifically pulls out the stats from the actual last minute of a game. Now, a reminder that on October 14th last year against the Packers, the Lions did the same thing by trying to let the Packers score. The Lions were winning 22-20 at the time. They tried to let the Packers score. The Packers didn't go for it. The running back slid down. Mason Crosby kicks the game winner with no time left, and they win the game. So the Lions are no stranger to doing this kind of thing. And I applaud Patricia for this sort of outside-the-box thinking of analytics, statistics, and not being an old-school conservative coach and really using analytics here. So I applaud Matt Patricia for that. Now, I want to talk about the crazy plays that had to happen and the fortunate things that had to happen for the Lions to actually win this game. And this all occurred after Gurley fumbled the ball after getting the first down, right before his touchdown play. If the Lions recover that ball, they knee it out and the game's over. So the Falcons got very lucky with Gurley fumbling the ball and somehow getting it back. So the very next play, Gurley gets pushed in the end zone. And if he is able to stop himself 4 inches shorter, then the Lions almost certainly lose the game as well. Now, on the Lions' touchdown drive, there was a Kenny Golladay catch on the very first play on the sideline, the left sideline, which didn't go to review. That should have gone to review because it was close enough where it looked like he got 2 feet in on the replay. I'm really surprised that they didn't go to review. I don't know why they didn't, but that was a mistake, I feel, on the NFL's part. The next play, TJ Hawkinson catches it on the right sideline. He doesn't able to go out of bounds. He tries to go out of bounds, but number 24 of the Falcons makes a great play, just stops him cold. And TJ struggles and gets the ball out of bounds, but the refs rule that his forward progress had been stopped, and that was a good ruling. So TJ made a mistake there by not just going straight out of bounds and trying to angle it out of bounds, and the Falcons made a great play by just stuffing him short. Now, a couple plays after that, Kenny Golladay catches that huge pass all the way down the middle of the field to the 8-yard line. That play did go for review. I think the Lions are fortunate that the review was upheld because there is a chance that he didn't catch it. There was not a good video replay showing where that ball was at the point where it may have touched the ground. So I think the Lions are a little bit fortunate there. So somebody does catch the ball, but then after the replay review, the ball is mismarked at the 11-yard line for no good reason. This was mentioned post-game, and nobody came up with a good reason. It looks like this was a mistake by the refs. I have no idea how the refs could have made that mistake, but the Lions were moved back to the 11-yard line, which could have made a big difference. So there's I think a big difference between the 8-yard line and the 11-yard line when you have one play to try to get a touchdown. So on that play, Stafford escapes pressure, does a really good job stepping up in the pocket and throwing it to TJ for the touchdown. Now, there are triple zeros on the clock at this point. Danny Amendola takes off his helmet, gets called for a celebration penalty, which is the right call according to the rules, but I need to question whether this rule should be as written, because having the Lions potentially lose the game because Amendola took off his helmet for a few seconds with triple zeros on the clock doesn't sit well with me, especially since there were at least 2 Falcons who took off their helmets as well. Now, you could say that, okay, the Falcons weren't celebrating, so there's no penalty for a celebration. However, just a minute ago, the Lions were celebrating the Falcons' touchdown. So it's sort of a judgment call here. Who's celebrating what? It probably should be just an all or nothing issue. No one takes off their helmets, or there needs to be some leeway given here, especially with end of game situations where everybody's going crazy. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows if the game's over, the game's not over, if there's going to be a replay review or not a replay review. And guys who take off their helmets, there might be some leeway given to these guys at this point. We also saw Jamal Agnew run from the sideline all the way onto the field to celebrate with everybody with no helmet on. So could he have gotten called for a penalty too? What if he got called for a penalty also? Now the Lions are pushed back 30 yards. Now Prater has to kick a 63-yard point after attempt to try to win the game. So I really think the NFL needs to reconsider the celebration penalty rule and make it maybe a little bit less punitive going forward, because we'd hate to see a game actually decided on this kind of thing. And this game easily could have been decided on this because Prater had to kick a 47-yard PAT to win the game. The other thing that was fortunate regarding that last drive is the Falcons played passive defense that entire drive. You could almost call it a prevent defense. This is something if the Lions defense had done, we'd be ripping the Lions up and down after the game. So the first 2 plays of that final drive, the Falcons did show blitz. They did have more than 4 guys on the line, but they backed it out and ended up only rushing 4. The next few plays, they didn't even show blitz. They didn't show any more than 4 at the line, and they only rushed a base 4 the entire drive. I don't think that's what you do against Stafford or against Matt Ryan or against most quarterbacks in the NFL. Because if you don't put pressure on these quarterbacks, there's a decent chance they will find somebody down the field. They will give one of these great wide receivers like Kenny Golladay a good 50-50 ball to go up and get. So I think that was a strategic error on the Falcons' part. Stafford has trouble dealing with pressure. He's not the most nimble guy. He's not the most strong guy in a dirty pocket. They should have blitzed more and really force Stafford to deal with that situation. If Stafford takes a sack at any point during that drive, the game's probably over. All right, so let's get back to the rest of the game. One thing I'd like to talk about is special teams. The kickoff coverage has been excellent the past couple games. We saw this a lot in the Jaguars game last week where they were purposely, it seemed like, kicking it short, and they were stopping the Jaguars from getting beyond the 15-yard line on many of those kickoff returns. We saw that again this game where they're enticing a kickoff return and most of the time stopping the return from getting past the 20-yard line. One guy that I like to praise is Jarrad Davis. If you notice, he's almost always down there by the ball, down there by the tackle on these kickoff returns. He played 39% of special team snaps, so he might not be playing that many defensive snaps for us, but he's doing a really good job on these kickoff coverage units. Let's talk about the defense here. Early on in the game, it looked great. It looked like a continuation of the Jacksonville game where there was a lot of run stops and good pass rush. Jarrad Davis played a lot more this game, especially early in the game. He played 27% of defensive snaps. He was getting good pressure. However, as the game went on in the second half, for some reason, we stopped blitzing as much. We stopped putting this pressure on Matt Ryan, and it allowed Matt Ryan to get comfortable, and he's too good of a quarterback to let do that with. I don't know why we got passive in the second half, but that's highly concerning because we've done that in many other games in the past couple years, starting with last year, the first game of the season against the Cardinals, which ended up being a tie. The defense gets tired in the second half. They don't get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. That's the exact situation where you have to send blitzes. You have to send extra guys. You have to show creativity to help out that defensive line, which is not good enough to consistently get pressure. Now, the guy who has gotten some big-time impact plays the past couple of games, and a lot of this year, is Romeo Okwara. He's been a huge surprise for us. I was not expecting a whole lot from him this year, but he got 2 sacks this game, including a strip sack. So this guy has really stepped it up and taken over as the one guy on the team who has gotten semi-consistent pressure on the quarterback. Let's talk about man versus zone defense for this game. The Lions played 50% zone defense this game. The previous game, starting from earliest to most, the latest, or what I should say is starting from the most recent game to going backwards, is 61% zone defense, 37%, 45%, 19%, and 18%. So early on the season, the Lions played very minimal zone defense. They've significantly increased it the past couple games, and the defense has looked a lot better. It has stopped a lot of these short crossing routes from happening that were going for big yardage. All right, let's talk about the offense. Early on, I think we got a fortunate roughing the passer penalty against Stafford that extended the drive, led to a touchdown. Our running game, I think DeAndre Swift still looks good. He's showing good patience as a runner, but I don't think we're running Swift enough still. He had 9 carries for 27 yards. Adrian Peterson had 11 carries for 29 yards, which was only 2.6 yards per carry. Kerryon had 0 carries. I don't like seeing Kerryon with 0 carries. This guy plays a lot of third downs for us as a pass protector, and he's doing fantastic as a pass protector for Stafford. How long is that going to last with him getting 0 carries? It's got to affect him mentally. It's got to affect him motivationally. That's just human nature. He's a good enough running back to be getting some carries, to be getting some receptions. I feel like a lot of Adrian Peterson's carries need to be split with DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson going forward. Adrian Peterson is still fine. He runs hard, but I feel like we should be using him more later in the game if we're trying to salt away a game, or even if we're not. He's not a guy who should be taking carries from DeAndre or Kerryon at this point, I don't think. A strategic thing that the Lions did was going for it on 4th and 1 in the game, which I love that. I like the aggressiveness. Most teams nowadays are going for it on 4th and short in a lot of situations, and the Lions are one of those teams, which I appreciate. So good on Matt Patricia for doing that. The play call ended up being horrible because they left an unblocked defender who came in and just smashed Adrian Peterson. All right, bad play call, but I love going for it. Stafford played better this game. He had a great drive to end the first half, and of course that great drive to end the second half. He played better. He had more drop in the bucket type passes. He made more plays, and most importantly, he avoided the bad plays which had been plaguing him for much of this season. No interceptions for him. No taking really bad sacks where he's holding the ball way too long. The sacks in this game were quick sacks that there's nothing he could do much about. So Stafford avoided the negative plays and slightly increased his positive plays, which ended up making this the best game of the year for him. There were some multiple situations during the game where the Lions really hurt themselves on offense. There was that one play where TJ Hawkinson and Marvin Jones ran the wrong route and actually ran into each other. Stafford was yelling at them after the play. There was that Amendola drop early in the game, which was a pretty easy catch. That was on 3rd down, and they had to punt the ball. So there are many points in the game where the Lions really hurt themselves and could have made this a game a more convincing win than it was. Kenny Golladay was making great catches throughout the game. Just an amazing game for him. I'd like to talk about Matt Prater for a second. He missed that long field goal. He's missed a couple other long field goals this year. So there's a concern later in the game. Is he going to be able to rebound? And he did. He came in clutch with a long field goal later on, as well as that long PAT to win the game. So excellent job by Matt Prater, not letting that missed field goal affect him mentally and coming in through clutch, winning the game for us late in the game. So my concerns going forward, the main concern for me is that I saw a passive defense in the second half of the game, which is something that has lost us games multiple times in the past couple years. That's why we're giving up these big leads. That's why we're blowing double-digit leads many times in the past 2 years, is because our defense gets tired. There's not enough pass rush, and any half-decent or even mediocre or poor quarterback like a Mitchell Trubisky can light up the Lions in the second half and make big comebacks. We got to stop this passive defense in the second halves. We got to be more aggressive, throw blitzes in there. Even if it gives up an 80-yard touchdown pass, I don't care. At least we got to get in the quarterback's mind that he has to start throwing the ball faster because a blitz could be coming at any time. All right, that's the show for today. Thanks for listening. Find me on Twitter at JimmyLealMD. Feel free to leave YouTube comments. Thanks.